Hey guys, welcome to Composed with Richard Schreiber, all about mindset, creativity, and the role of composers. Today, I want to talk about something which is really important in the art of creativity, and that is learning to trust your instincts. It's a really tricky one, and especially when you're working to brief, working for other people, there's a constant balance between your instincts and what the other person is asking. Now, I generally advise that you trust your instincts, but obviously, if someone is directly saying, don't do this, and your instincts saying better, my experience is actually do what the client asks most of the time. But let's get into the initial act of creativity for creativity's sake and to do work that lights you up. How do you improve your ability to trust and act on your intuition? So I'm going to do like a little caveat before. I've got 3 points of advice, 3 tips. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you understand that you need to have been sleeping well, eating well, exercising so that you're in a good space. Because unfortunately, when you're in a not great space, your critical thinking, no, that's not the right word, your inner critic is going to be very loud and very active. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between all those voices you hear in your head. It sounds crazy, I know, but we've all got them. Let's not pretend. So make sure you're in a good space. Now, these things have helped me greatly improve my creative intuition. So here we go. The first one, and this is a really, really important one, is practice acting on your first intuition. And that's like the first thought that comes into your head. Practice acting on that. And then, because what will happen is you'll start to understand that actually often the intuition is the first thing that appears. Boom. It comes there. And what will happen then is it comes so quickly that it's almost like someone's dropped it inside you. And then your mind will start to take over. So if you practice acting on that first idea, that first thought, I say thought in speech marks because the intuitive creative doesn't necessarily think, and it's not necessarily a thought that comes into your mind. It's something else. It's something magical. Practice acting on that, ignoring the thoughts that come out afterwards. So if you suddenly get the urge to do a certain chord sequence, let it come out. Don't let that mind kick in there and be like, well, that's not original, because you don't know what's going to happen. The first thing that comes out isn't the finished product. So let the seed come out and grow into the beautiful acorn tree. Oak tree, I suppose is probably a better way to say it. Step 2 is to practice silence. Now, the reason we practice silence is so that we can hear those really, really quiet whispers. And I've talked about this in my podcast. I've talked about it in this podcast, this vlog thing. We have constant voices in our head. And sometimes the little quiet whispers is another way that your intuition comes in. It's not always like this feeling. Sometimes it's like a little voice just saying, do this. And sometimes without the silence, it's really hard to hear. So practice silence in your day. Just like a minute. It doesn't need to be a long time. Sit still. Observe those thoughts. Let them come. Step 3 is much the same. But this is like a good way to kind of clear the fog, especially if you're not in a great place. Julia Cameron does this in her suggests doing this in her Artist's Way book. It's called Morning Pages. There are variations upon it. For instance, my wife was telling me about she had a podcast about a chap who used to work for Google who does a similar thing where he just sits down with a pen and paper and you write whatever comes to mind. Essentially what you're doing is you're kind of offloading those thoughts, because we've got all these kind of inane thoughts, buy Parmesan cheese, do the washing, all these things of all the stuff that we need to do. And then once that's written down, it's kind of cleared. And then all of a sudden, the deeper roots start to reveal themselves. And that's another way to get to the deeper work, the really deep work, the lovely creative work that resonates with your soul. So there we go. They're my 3 tips. Practice silence, practice acting on that first intuition, first idea, and journal. let the thoughts out, just let them out. And this will help you improve your writing speed. It will help you improve writing too brief, because you will let the ideas out and you will let them grow and flourish into something beautiful. It's hugely important because it also means that you enjoy your work so much more. Now go ahead guys, practice those 3 steps. Let me know how you get on. I hope they help.